Anytime you want to write email to me, well, you're welcome to do that. Today we're going to sing this song, which is called The Minstrel Boy. It is an Irish folk song. You can say it's a folk song, but it was actually written by a prestigious poet, and he used one of this popular and ancient melody to put in his poem as the lyrics， 就是他的诗写在一个古老的曲调上面。And it became very, very famous. He, in his life, Thomas More, he did a lot of things, politics and academic work and so on and so forth. But in the end, after he died, people remember him most for the poems that he wrote, which became very popular folk songs. And this is about a minstrel boy who is a young man, probably in the teens, not even 20 years old. And he played music in the army. So he's a very lowly ranked soldier. He did not even have a gun or something. But compared to Yue Fei, who is a really, really great general who won many battles, they are just very starkly different two people. However, what they expressed, their feeling for the country, their loyalty to the country, it's almost identical. You can feel that they are just putting their life on the line and giving their life for the country. Yeah, I'm personally a person who wants the world to be at peace. However, I understand there are many situations where a country needs to fight for its own life. So it's a contradicting view of war, battles, and patriotism. I'm going to talk also about Parthenon, commentary, miniature, and cult. These are pretty nice topics, and I'm afraid I'm going to take too much time to do that. This is a list of vocabulary, and there was nothing that I spelled wrong last time. However, there were some things about these things that were not exactly correct. So we're going to mention them as we go along this list. The first word is called imminent, and it is to say that it's going to happen very, very soon, and it's very urgent to take care of this matter, and it's quite honestly a crisis that we're facing. So we use this word imminent to express the urgency of this thing. So it's not something about you casually saying, oh, this thing will happen soon. That's a very leisurely way to put it. But when we say imminent, that is something that alarms us, that we should pay attention to. And at the same time, there's another word which has nothing to do with it, except that they sound very much alike, and that is called eminent. And eminent is when we say a person is an eminent person, he's prestigious and knowledgeable and admired by people. 我们说是受到大家崇敬的一个人，可以说是一个 eminent 的人。可是它跟 eminent 是 very different words. And this is cremation. We saw that people, especially in India by the Ganges River, they burn their dead bodies which is a religious ritual. And this kind of burning a dead body is called the cremation, or as a verb, it is cremate. And a place or an oven that is used to cremate dead bodies is called the crematorium. So we should know the word cremate or cremation, but the other two words are less used, which is crematorium and the columbarium. A crematorium is the oven. This is one in Dachau, which is a concentration camp near Munich, Germany. And they built, I think, 4 of them, but they were never used. You can go to, say, Auschwitz and see lots of crematoriums that were used, so they were dark and dirty, but this one is brand new. And here we have this cemetery in Moscow, and it's called the New Maiden Convent and Cemetery. And there are many, many famous Russian people who died were buried here. People like Khrushchev, Yeltsin, the wife of Gorbachev, and of course many ballet dancers, composers, and airplane designers, and actor and actresses, or the wife of Stalin, and those people. It's a very special place. And in it, there is a columbarium. In our culture, we have such places, and it's very often located in a part of a temple, a Buddhist temple, or some kind of maybe Taoist temple. But in other countries, they usually don't do that, and especially in Russia, for about 100 years, nobody's allowed to have a religion, so they do not have Christian or Buddhist columbariums. Okay. Here are 2 words. One is mortal, one is immortal. When we talk about like 八仙过海的八仙, we often think, how do you translate this word 仙? We often encounter words like fairies, angels, or sprites, those little or beautiful creatures that are not real, but they're not really gods. The proper word would be immortal. So 八仙 would be called the 8 immortals. That means it's not because they're pretty. They're not pretty, but they are magical. They don't die. Immortal means they do not die. Well, compared to these immortals, the regular people would be called mortals because they die. The word mort, or something with a more in front, means to die. So we have the ordinary people who are mortal, who don't die, who die inevitably. They would die, but there are a few who are immortals. In our Chinese culture, many of them were regular people. They do well. Some of them are real gods or goddesses, and they were born that way. But in our culture, we tend to think if you do good deeds, you can become immortal eventually. So that's the difference between our immortals and their immortals. This word is called oracle. In our culture, we have people who are who can tell you your future. You go to this palm reader. Palm reader would be someone who reads your palm, 就是看手相的人. And of course, some of them do not read palms, but they tell your fortune. They are fortune tellers. So there are a number of words. For example, a palm reader, 就是看手相的人, or a fortune teller, 就是会 someone who could tell you what your future entails. So, but in Greek culture, they have oracles. Oracles are people who can tell you the future. However, it's not because they see something, or they can see from your palms, or they can see from the cards, or something. But it's only because God tell them through their mouth, so that they would tell people something that were predicted by the gods, not because they themselves knew that. It's only because they were in a trance. Hallucination caused them to say things that were put in their mouth by other gods. So oracles are such kind of fortune tellers who is a portal. Here's the word portal, which means a port is a gate. So you have a portal through which God can pass information to this person. That so these people are called oracles, not because they could calculate the stars, not because they could see future, but because God, through their mouth, tells people what the future will be, while these people were totally out of it. They just say things while they were totally confused. They were in a trance. So when they were in a trance, they could not think. They just say things that happens to cross their mouth. Okay, that's called a trance. And this oracle is everywhere in Greek mythology. Last time we talked about Jason and the Argonauts, and throughout the story, many times an oracle would appear in the story and tell certain thing that's going to happen in the future. So in their lives, oracles, they're everywhere. Of course, not nowadays in Greece, but in the old ancient mythology,就是希腊的神话哈. That's what an oracle is. Here is another word, seer. I can put it here, which the seer is a person who can see the future. Okay. So the most famous place for Greek oracles to appear is here in Delphi. Here's the word Delphi, Delphi. If you read a Greek mythology, you will certainly encounter this place and a certain oracle who appeared there to deliver a speech while under the influence of God. So they appear here in Delphi in front of the temple of Apollo. Apollo is a major god, the sun god. And right on the right-hand side of this picture is this rock. Okay. On top of this rock would be standing an oracle. And he or she, quite often it's a she, he or she would be under the influence of Oleander usually. Oleander is Jiazhu Tao. We were told oleander is poisonous. I remember when I was a little kid, and there were in the campus of my mother's school, there are lots of oleanders, and I found this oleander having a very strange smell. So there was one day I was walking all around the campus, smelling, trying to breathe in the oleander. At that time, I did not know it's poisonous. And I got, I wouldn't say quite sick, but I was not very well. The smell is not good for you. And according to my tour guide in Greece, she said these oracles, they would burn the oleander, I don't know, branches or something, and then inhale, 就是吸进哈 inhale and exhale. Inhale 是吸进去哈exhale 是呼出来哈。So they inhale the fume or the smoke of oleander branches, and they became hallucinated. Let me play some words here. We have inhale and exhale. 一个是吸，一个是呼and I don't know. It's S-I or C. I think it's a C. Okay. Hallucinate, maybe like this. Okay, both of them. Okay. Hallucinate means I think you can see it. Yeah.
Where is it?
Oh, now it's wrong. Okay. Let me see. Let's hope it's correct. Anyway, one way or another, hallucinate means you are under the influence of alcohol or drugs. So you could see things that are not there. So Sybil is one of the oracles. She often appears in Delphi in the ancient times on that rock under the influence of God. And she would make predictions to tell people what will happen to this king or this great person or whatever. And that is what many times in various Greek mythologies. Here is the word eruption. Erupt, you could have an audience in the auditorium. They could erupt in laughters when the person in front of them told a joke. Everybody started to laugh. So at that time, we would say the audience erupted in laughters. But the most often place we use this word eruption or erupt is because a volcano. When a volcano erupted, it would spew smoke and the fire and the lava, lots of things. The earth would shake. That's when you use the word eruption. So it is a much more violent action than the mere other things, other movement. So volcano eruption is a violent act. Words related to such thing are magma and the lava. These are the most common words. And you could be hard pressed to say what the difference. Magma is molten rock. It is something that's inside the earth. They were in a liquid form. Rocks were so hot that they become liquid. So that's called magma. But once the volcano erupts, the magma would be spewed out, and what it comes out of the volcano is called the lava. And after the lava comes out, it could become lava flow, like a river, like in this picture, that's a lava flow. That's a lava flow. Or after it dried, you could see that on the surface of the earth, there are lava, dried up and cooled down lava. And the volcano could be shaped in a lava dome. All these things are, we call lava something, lava dome or lava flow or lava tube. That is when after the flow was emptied and the thing cools down, you would have a hollow tube. That's called the lava tube. So these are the words related to lava, which is the form of magma that is no longer underground. Whatever comes out, the magma would be called lava. And the tectonic plates are, there's a lot more theory in that. We're not going to go into that. That is, many of the volcano eruptions were caused by tectonic plates movement. For example, the one we had in the year 2000 or something in Seattle, that was because of the two plates were crossing each other near Olympia. When they abruptly shift, then the earth would, it would result in an earthquake, but volcano and that thing are two different things. They may be the same sometimes, but not the same at other times. For example, you see this volcano erupt. It's hard to say the reason. It could still be the two plates shift against each other, and as a result, there's some kind of crack that happened, and the volcano could erupt. Okay. This word is perilous, and we have many other words to describe dangerous or other ways to say this thing, but the perilous is more urgent and more dangerous than the word dangerous. Here we have an example of perilous that is in the Star-Spangled Banner, the national anthem of United States. In the third line toward the end, it says, "Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright star through the perilous fight." This person who wrote it, he experienced this very fierce battle after the revolution broke out. So it's not in 1776. It's a couple years after that, because the British Empire did not like to part with the United States. So they launched a huge war against the United States, and the battle went on for years and years. And during those battles, one of the person who participated in this battle wrote this, which became the national anthem. That's how I immediately thought about this song when I read about Perilous. Then we talk about film festivals. The one we talked about last time was Cannes. This is pronounced Cannes. For English speaker, you may want to say it as Cannes, but there's another city in France that is spelled this way. It's in Normandy, and it is pronounced as Cannes, while the film festival is being held every year in Caen, which is on the southern border. I mean, not border, is seashore. Huh? It's in the Côte d'Azur, Wayland High. This film festival started in 1946 and is held annually now. There are three biggest film festivals in the world. The other two are not held annually. Cannes Film Festival, the award is called Palme d'Or, which means 金棕榈, huh? That's their logo. You get an award that is a gold-colored palm leaf. And this is one of the scenes, the entrance of the Cannes Film Festival. But there are others. One is Venice and one is Berlin. They are both biennial, which means that they are held every other year. And Venice biennial, or they probably say biennal, okay. They give out a award which is in shape of a golden lion, because lion is the symbol of Venice Empire for 400 years. Well, in Berlin, they give out an award called Golden Bear, because bear represent Berlin for many long time, many years, a long time. And there are also many other film festivals, more than you could count. But these are the more famous ones: New York, Los Angeles, Toronto, Sundance, and Seattle. Now, Seattle is not the most famous one, but we're pretty prestigious as well. Our festival is called the Seattle International Film Festival, so we call it SIF. So of all these film festivals, the big three are in France, in Italy, and in Germany. And this one is a picture of the entrance of Venice. Venice 就是一个水都在意大利的东北角哈。Once it was a thriving trading city, and there was a big empire coming out of that city, and it was there for a long time, as I just mentioned, about 400 years. And every time they built something, they would carve a lion with wings as a commemoration monument. So if you go to, say, Croatia, which is part of the Balkan Peninsula, Balkan 就是巴尔干半岛, huh? If you go there, many of the countries there, Croatia, Slovenia, Montenegro, and Herzegovina, and Bosnia, all these countries were once under Venice Empire, the Empire of Venice. So you could see lots of lions there, and especially they like to carve something with a lion that has a book either open or closed. So if the book is open, that means when this lion was carved, the country was in peace. And if it's closed, that means the country was in war somewhere. So it's a common sight to see lion over there. While in Berlin, you see bears everywhere. And for example, in the hotel that we stayed in, the gift shop has a big display glass kiosk with all kinds of little bears. Bears like those Princess Diana bears, when we had those little stuffed animal, little ones. There was once a huge, it was a very fashionable thing for people to buy new toys from that company. I forgot what company. Beanie Baby. Is that Beanie Baby?
Stifle.
What's that?
Stifle. Stifle.
Stifle?
S-T. Stifle.
S-T what?
T-I-F-E. I think it's that. Stifle.
Stifle? Stifle means to 把一个人掐死，不让他不能呼吸。
This German brand.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I just know that people were buying Beanie Babies. One of them was a Princess Diana bear, and there are many other small stuffed animals, tiny ones like this. And it was all the rage, and it can be bidded to hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it's all over now. Yeah, nobody pays that much for that anymore. But the bears I'm talking about is the symbol of Berlin, and it's everywhere. They have all kinds of bear, and they think it's an ambassador of tolerance. Germany wants to get rid of the bad reputation from Second World War, and they are promoting peace everywhere they go now. So Berlin is having this tolerance bear as their symbol, and it like that for
S-T-E-I-F-F.
S-T-E-I-F-F. Oh, okay. Well, I've never seen that word. Yeah, okay. Okay, but yeah, there was one year that Seattle had lots of pigs, big pigs, bigger than a person, and they get all kinds of artists to paint it into different, dress up the pig, and that's some kind of a very fashionable thing, as each city would pick an animal and they would put that animal all around the city and painted by artists into many beautiful colors. And if you go to Berlin, you could see bears, and go to Seattle, you see pigs. And I've seen others, and I couldn't remember where and how. There are cows, and there's something in Chile, San Diego. I had a picture of that. Anyway, this is all kind of friendship gesture to mark their brand. It's a tourist kind of thing. Okay, so I'm finished with this film festival. Here's the word snitch. It is a quite commonly used word, but many of us were not familiar with that. This is to express the idea that somebody who knows something and he goes to the police or FBI or something to tell a big shot. So, for example, a mafia boss, then some people under him could go to the police to become an informer, to inform a more famous people so that it can get him in trouble. The one movie that I saw recently is called The Judas. Who said it's about Black Panther leader who was involved in all kinds of protest, and there was somebody he knows who went to the FBI and told them about the things that maybe he's going to go here and there, and eventually FBI just ambushed him and killed him. It was a leader, I think his name was Hampton, in the 70s. And this kind of activity. So you have a person, for example, Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, or somebody who is famous or influential, and the government is against those people, like FBI. His FBI is against all these Black leaders because they think they're, well, not necessarily because they think, but they claim these people are communist. That's why they have to keep an eye on it, or even to assassinate some of them. And in this story, there is usually an informer, a person who snitches on this famous person. In this movie, I just saw Judas and the Black Messiah. I guess that's the name of the movie. It's a very recent movie in the last year. And when you say Judas, that is an informer, because Jesus was betrayed by Judas. And all these activity they did is called to snitch. You snitch on somebody means that you go to the authority to tell something about this famous person, and as a result, you got him in trouble. So this is a word called the snitch. It can be a verb or it can be a noun. And the noun is equivalent to an informer or an informant. In our language, we call it 县民. 县民 is somebody who provides information, inside information, to help you solve the case. Of course, there are two sides of the story. There are the good guys and bad guys, and each side could be the good guy. The other side could be the bad guy. The next thing we're going to talk about is Parthenon, which is 这个雅典, This is Athens in Greece. The capital of Greece is called Athens, and there is in the middle of this city a very craggy, looks like it's very dangerous piece of little mountain there with very steep side. So it's a place where you can make a fortress out of. That's called Acropolis. An Acropolis is a part of a city that is high above, and you can make a fort, or you can say citadel. Here's the word citadel. Citadel means a fort, which is on top of big rock. This is on the top of this hill. There are a group of buildings, and the biggest one of them is this one, which is called Parthenon. 帕德能神庙. And if you look carefully, I think you can. Okay, on the other side, you cannot see how you get to the top. You went that way. I heard it was 99 steps. And you go there and you can see this pylons and the little temples. And here is the biggest temple, and there's a small temple, and there are others that were already demolished or destroyed by, say, earthquake and warfare. So this is from another angle, and you climb up the hill from here. You start from here with 99 steps, you would get to this entrance, and then you can go there further. There are more buildings. And it is said that Pericles, here is Pericles, he in the 5th century BC built all these buildings. And before that, there were other buildings, but he systematically built this very big buildings that lasted for many years, however, was critically damaged throughout the years. this is not my picture. It is from Wikipedia. And down here, of course, these are the part of the citadel or the city walls. But down here, there are other buildings. There is a big Roman theater. Well, maybe not Roman. I should say Greek theater. Yeah, we're in Greece. So Parthenon is a temple, and we believe it is a temple of Athena, 或者说 Athena 雅典娜神是个女神啊。And this is where I need to make a correction of what I said last time. I said the word Parthenon in other countries you call it Pantheon, but I was wrong. Pantheon is a different name, and it is from the word pan, which means many, and the theon means the god. So Pantheon is 万神庙, and I thought Parthenon is a Greek pantheon, but it's not. It's a different word. It is, the word itself means a married women's apartment, and we don't know what it means, what women, but that's what it's called. A Parthenon is for this kind of a building, which is a temple of Athena. And we don't know which apartment or what room in that building is for the what woman. And last time I mentioned two parts of this building. One is frieze and one is pediment. These are more technical terms that you don't need to remember. When we talk about frieze, it is a band of a structure on, usually on top of a building, like this one in the Roman Bath. It's called the Circus in Bath. Bath is a town in England, and it's famous for a lot of Roman ruins in there. And this building in particular is called a circus. And this is the part that is the frieze of this building. So it's a band of carving that is near the top of the building itself, but lower than the roof. That's a traditional frieze. However, this is also called frieze, but it's not one band, it's numerous bands across this building, which is an Indian temple. Of course, they had no communication, so they did not, when they built that, they did not say, we're going to do something that's called the frieze. No, they did not say that. It's just what Indian buildings, the temples would look like, with lots of decoration. And this one is a Yankee Stadium in New York City, and we would call this part the frieze. So you get the idea that the frieze is a kind of building structure with for the decorative purpose, and it's along the entire length of the building. And another thing was pediment, which is a triangular part of a building, especially in Greco-Roman. Now, when we say something that is having Greece and Roman, Greco-Roman influence, we would say Greco-Roman, and Greco is represent the word Greece, or from Greek. Okay, so I'm throwing you these two words in order to make a point, which is these are the parts of Parthenon that were so fancily carved or decorated. And then along came this seventh Earl of Elgin, who is an envoy of Victorian England or United Kingdom. And in my mind, he looted this temple and took all these carvings back to British Museum. Okay, so after you know the parts of this building, then you will be able to see what they used to be and what they became. So these are the parts of the frieze. That is a long band of carvings that is relief are let me put this here. Come on. Okay. Reliefs of 浮雕, huh? Or we can say bas relief. So you have this band, which is called frieze, on this Parthenon, and they are intricately carved. And they also have the pediments. These are all the relief that we could see. If you go to this new museum in Athens, you could see that these, only the yellowish ones are what's left in the home country. All the white parts were stolen and maybe damaged by earthquake or war, but many were stolen by the British envoy. Can I put envoy somewhere? Yeah, okay. Envoy is not an ambassador. It's just some people or messenger or representative sent by the big country to another country to represent them, to engage in negotiation or to make friendship chat or something. So this is not a permanently stationed ambassador, but it's only a temporary representative between countries. So you look at this one, you can see how it was finely carved. And it's about 1 foot high. And the relief, 就是它浮出来的部分, is about 6 centimeter thick. 所以它不是一个真的凸出来，而只是浅浅的 very lightly bulging carving. So you see that some were still there, some were gone. When it's white, you know it's gone. And some of them you can see for a long stretch in the exhibition, it's all white. So you can imagine how, when people go there to look at them, how they would feel that they could not see it anymore. And then we talk about the pediment. This is one of the pediments. And usually a Greek building would have two ends on the short side and the two long sides that do not have pediment. So you have this side with a pediment, and you go to the other side, you can see another pediment. So this is the pediment, the west pediment of Parthenon, and this is the east. Okay, this is the east of it. And how do we know what it looks like? Because there's nothing there. You can see that there's nothing there. We can make them because there's a person in 1896 who made the drawings there. Looks like maybe, I don't know, German. Anyway, so at that time, this person was there and he drew all the pictures. And now we can, by following this drawing, make them appear as if they were really there. And this is the west side, east side of the pediment. And at the center, there was Zeus and there was Athena. So there were the two biggest gods. Zeus is the god of heaven, and Athena is what this temple was all about. It was an Athena's temple. And all these people on the sides, there were, of course, some people will be able to tell you what every figure represent. But for us, only need to know there are two central figures. One is Zeus and another is Athena. And on the other side, which is the west side, you have Athena again and Poseidon. Poseidon is a god of the sea. And in Greek mythology, you call it Poseidon, but when it comes to the Roman mythology, you would call that Neptune. Okay, so Neptune is Poseidon, and Athena also has many names. One is Diana, and the one is Minerva. So Minerva would be a Roman name for this goddess. So these were beautifully carved, and you can see that Poseidon was carrying a trident. Huh? We talked about a trident several times. This god of the sea always carries a lance with a three-pronged lance on top. So if you go to any city with any kind of sculpture, if you see a trident, you know that was Poseidon or Neptune. So this is to show you that all these things are gone. Only very few are left in the new museum so that the visitor could go there to see and to turn your head over and to see the on the agora, this Parthenon sitting right there, stripped bare with all the beautiful carvings. And in order to go see the real carving, you have to go to British Museum to see the Elgin marbles. And I showed you these pictures. Okay, last time we talked about Never on Sunday. It's a Greek romantic comedy, and there is Melina Mercouri playing the prostitute, and this very humble academic person or reporter or literary person was played by her future husband, Jules Dassin. And this was an instant hit all over the world, even in Taiwan when I was little. Everybody was singing this song, Never on Sunday. And if you want to try to sing this song, you can just go to your computer, internet, and look for Never on Sunday. You're definitely going to find all the lyrics and even the movie or the songs, the video of the song on YouTube, which it's a quite sarcastic story about this professor or something who wants to save this prostitute out of a life of decadent life. Okay, so but this prostitute is perfectly happy. She wants to be a prostitute, and she enjoys her life. So this song says, "Oh, you can kiss me on a Monday. A Monday is very, very good. Or you can kiss me on a Tuesday. A Tuesday. In fact, I wish you would. Or you can kiss me on the Wednesday, a Thursday, a Friday, a Saturday. Saturday is best, but never ever on the Sunday, a Sunday, because that's my day of rest." I think it's not quite proper for we as kids to sing such songs, but at that time, it was everywhere. Oh, we're only halfway there. Okay, here we have nostril, which means you have one nose, but you have two nostrils, okay? And this is a tricky word because it's an auto-antonym. Antonym is a 反义字, huh? You have 同义字 and the 反义字. However, sanction is a word that is itself, it is its own antonym. So when you encounter this word several times you're looking at it and you're confused because it means a permission or a restriction. So the government can sanction something. So it can mean the government said, this is the thing, only this thing can be followed. Others are not real. You have to do this only. So it's a permission. On the other hand, the government can sanction this thing because they're against it. So they restrict people for supporting it or helping it to thrive or something. So you can have a sanction against North Korea or Iran or any country that you feel is not doing the right thing. So your government, the US government, can put a sanction on this government or on certain people or on certain things. On the other hand, there could be things that are sanctioned by the government as the only thing you can do, while others you cannot do. So it is contradictory. The two meanings are contradictory. That's why it's called the auto-antonym. So a country can erect an economic sanction, typically a ban on trade and a limit to certain sectors and things like that. We see that quite often. Or international sanction, that is, you gather up other allies and together you put a restriction on. It's not just economic. You can say you don't participate in the Olympic Games that is going to happen in that country. So that's not an economic sanction, but it's an international sanction. So it's a pretty confusing, and it's a legal word, but we see it quite often, especially nowadays. Just about every other day there's a sanction. This one is about commentary. It is entirely about Chinese, because in other cultures, no other cultures in the world would put such emphasis on a few classic canons. We decided these 5 books, 诗书易礼春秋, because Yue was lost. These 5 classics were so exalted, so great, so honorable that we want everybody to know, and we write extensive commentary on it so that people can understand what it's talking about. Here we have 2 words. One is called annotation. That means to put notes, explanations on the terms that are harder to understand. So you look at a thesis, for example, a doctor's thesis, and there are superscript numbers attached to certain word, and there are below it annotations. 那就是加注解的意思. And commentary is annotation, but it's a whole lot more than that. When you have an article, you may have some annotation, maybe 2 or 3 or 5 or 10. But commentary is you do annotation for the entire book, even though the book could be very, very long. So your commentary would be volumes and volumes long that's consisted of annotation only. That's what we Chinese do the best. We put lots of efforts. Scholars spend their whole lives writing commentaries on the classical works. And last time we talked about 春秋三传. So 春秋was a history written by Confucius. And well, since I'm going to talk for a long time, maybe I should take a break of 5 minutes. We could chat around, but to 3:05, we can resume. Okay? Maybe.
啊，是你什么时候去那个雅典？
I believe I was there in 2015.
Oh, so it's through the land tour or cruise or?
We did a 4-day cruise.
Oh,
So
great.
on land for 8 or 9 days. But the cruise, we went to 5 islands, but one of them, because of the waves were too huge, we were not able to land. So we went to Patmos
Uh-huh.
and Crete and the Rhodes and what's the other one? Santorini. Yeah. These are all big ones, but if you take the ferry yourself, you can go to many smaller islands.
I see. Wish someday I can go there too.
Yeah, we were really in a hurry. We did that in 4 days. I went with Julie's sister.
I see.
I'm sorry. I went with Julie, who is a sister of, I forgot her name, Jamie. Okay, Jamie's sister,
I see.
Julie.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So we came out of the port, which was, all those mythical figures sail out of the same port, like Argonaut or the Trojans. Yeah, every story you read about, they sailed out of the port. Of course, out of other ports too, but this is a big port next to Athens, and the port is called the Piraeus.
I see.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, I should be. Okay.
Okay, let's have some water.
Yeah, I should. But I feel a little better than last time. Actually,
Great.
much
Good for you. Slowly. Take your time.
but I can find out exactly when I went there. Oh, I think I took out the picture. Oh, okay, this is the one. 2015, yeah.
Oh, good. October.
Yeah, we stayed in Athens for a number of days, so we could go to the many places. Then we went around the country. We went to see Mycenae. Mycenae was where we passed by Corinth, Corinth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was a canal. And the Mycenae was where Agamemnon was. He was a king there. Agamemnon was the leader of many Greek states who launched the battle against the Trojans, because the Trojan prince, Paris, he seized Helen. Helen was the most beautiful woman in the whole world. Helen was the wife of Agamemnon's brother. So Agamemnon would take a lot of ships to get Helen back, and they won the battle after 10 years. That was a stupid thing, really a stupid thing.
Let's see. Did you say take a break now?
Oh yeah, it's about over.
Sorry. Make you talk again.
Yeah, it's better.
Okay.
I'm not so much under stress.
Yes.
Okay. So we're talking about this commentary, which is a Chinese thing. So we had Confucius, who wrote the history about this period in Chinese history, which is from 722 to 481. That's to some more than 200 years. And this period is later called the 春秋时代. And so this is a classic called the 春秋, while 3 other people wrote commentary on it. So in Chinese, commentary can be translated as 传. So you have 左传, 公羊传, 谷梁传. These are people who are very well respected scholars, but they spend their life writing commentary for this book, which was written by Confucius. And they think they were doing a great thing because Confucius was very spare with his words. In this 春秋, as a history, Confucius was from the state of Lu, so he wrote the history according to all the kings or the dukes. Yeah, you can say king, but actually they were dukes. They were dukes. So there are 11 dukes, one after another, in the state of Lu. And each one, for example, the first one in Lu Yinggong, there would be Lu Yinggong Yuan Nian, the first, second, third, all the way to 11. So this duke was on the throne for 11 years. And in this book, Lu Yinggong was one of the 11 dukes. And within Lu Yinggong's history, there are 11 years. Each chapter is a year. And if you open the book, you can see that this is the part that Confucius wrote. He said in the first year, the first month, the third month, the fifth month, seventh month, ninth month, 12th month, and so on. So it's really, really a short history. This is the year, and it's finished in this few lines. And of this very, very short history, there is one line, which is the third, that says, in the summer of the 5th month, 郑伯克段于鄢. Now that's what Confucius think. All that people need to know is the Duke conquered his brother in that city. But he didn't say the brother. He just named this brother as if he was another person from another family. So there's a lot in this very, very short 6 words, because it means he thinks this duke was wrong. He should not wage a war against his brother. He did not treat his brother as a brother. It was a very wrong thing to do. And for thousands of years after him, everyone should know that this duke was wrong, okay? So when you have this history, such a short history, how do you write a commentary on it? You can look at the 3 commentaries. The first one is George. Okay, of course you can't read it. In this first chapter of Lu Yinggong Yuan Nian, Zuo Qiuming wrote this to interpret, to explain what Confucius said. And he spent hundreds and hundreds more words on it. Okay, and in this part, there is a very large section, more than half of the whole thing, that is responsible for telling you what 郑伯克段于鄢 was all about. So you need to have such a long, many paragraph story to explain to people who later read this book what it was all about. And this red part, I would enlarge into 2 slides. It's this one and this one. That's how much it consists of. And this happens to be lesson 1 when I was in college, the first year in my classical Chinese class. This was the first class in our anthology of many other essays and poems in that book. 就是左传卢隐公元年中间的郑伯克段语焉 this story that was excerpted in our anthology in our first year college textbook. It essentially says how this mother had this baby coming out the wrong way. That means the baby did not come out head first, but legs first. That's why the mother suffered a great deal, and the mother did not like this baby, and she liked the second baby. So this first baby, who eventually inherited the throne, was very resentful. Every time people said, your brother did this, he is wrong, you should discipline him, he would say, my mother wanted to do that. My mother, it's all because of my mother. And many, many years later, the brother really did something terribly wrong. And this duke went out and conquered this brother. And Confucius says, it's not right to do that. You cannot let your mother spoil your brother for so many years and then one day decide to wage war against that. And the second part of the story is even more interesting. It is when this whole thing happened, this duke said to his mother, he says, I will never ever see you again in my lifetime. He says, 不及黄泉无相见也. Only after we are both dead will we meet again. And he soon regretted about it because he loved his mother. And there along came a wonderful courtier in his court saying that, I have a suggestion for you. You can just dig a tunnel and your mother can meet each other in this tunnel. Then you can meet each other in this lifetime. You don't have to wait until you die. And the Duke did just that. That is so very touching. I love this story. And at the same time, you look at 春秋公羊传. This is what they said about 鲁隐公元年. And if you look at 谷梁传, this is what this person said about 鲁隐公元年. So you have Confucius who wrote this history, and each year is just a very skeletal narrative of this year, a few lines only. And those people, at least 3 people who went on this mission to write commentary. And of course, this is just 鲁隐公元年. There are 200 some years that the history covers, the history of spring and autumn. And after 200 years, this commentary would amount to a big book. Yeah, okay. So you would understand what commentary really means, even though it's an English word. I bet not often it's used in English, except when dealing about Chinese literature. This is another book that is called the 史记. And 史记 is vastly bigger than 春秋. It's got, I don't know, 100 and some books. And each story is beautifully written and very in detail, very much in detail. However, these 3 people, plus many, many, I would say throughout history, hundreds of people devoted their lives writing commentary for the book of or the grand historian's book. So this is just one of the Chinese classics that got the royal treatment by having many, many people writing commentary for it. So writing commentary or studying commentary is big business in China. Okay, we're talking about Mediterranean. Here is a good map of Mediterranean. It's what a wonderful thing to have a sea that is almost totally enclosed, but for one place, that is the Strait of Gibraltar. 直布罗陀海峡, huh? So this huge thing, even including the Black Sea, all these has this tiny little entrance. And this is where the Western civilization thrived. You can see here is Syria and Iraq. That's 两河流域. And there's Israel, Jordan, and Egypt. And there's Turkey and Greece and Italy. And toward the end, there's Spain. And the entire northern coast of Africa. This is some very special place on Earth. And we tend to know the word Middle East, which means this part. Usually we talk about Israel, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon. That's about it. But more than 100 years ago, maybe 200 years ago, this area was being occupied by France and Great Britain. So some of the people from Great Britain call it Middle East. Some people from France, they call it Levant. So Levant is equivalent to Middle East, but in the French language. And sometimes it's called the Eastern Mediterranean region. And this is a 广义的, a wider definition of Eastern Mediterranean or Levant would also include Tunisia, part of Algeria, and Greece. But that is the idea of, okay, in this 19th century, we can think of the Middle East as this big part. However, right now, we are talking about this very dark green Levant in the 20th century, and this added areas, that's Iraq and the Sinai Peninsula. This is a wider definition of Levant or Middle East. That was what this Wikipedia thinks is the 21st century's idea of Levant. Okay, the next word is a miniature. A miniature is a small-sized thing. For example, here's a miniature rose. I have not seen miniature rose when I was in. I did not see them in Taiwan. But so when I got to the United States, I kind of take a liking because there are other colors like yellow and so on, pink and white. They can be planted in a pot. So they are sold as a house plant. However, they are not suitable to be grown in the pot. And it's better if you put it in the ground, and they're quite hardy for you to do that. So it's better to grow it outdoors. I've had it outside for a number of years. And according to Wikipedia, it is made from a Chinese rose. For your information, Chinese had the longest history and best story of horticulture, that is to plant things in the garden or indoors. And the Chinese spent thousands of years improving on the strains of the plants that almost nearly 90% of the flowers in the garden in the Western world came from China. They just love China for doing all those things. And this is a miniature book. It is a book, United States History and the Presidents in a Nutshell. So it's really in a nutshell, which means in the walnut shell. This is a book in 1904. And this is a miniature stallion. It's a horse that is much smaller than regular horses. I'm assuming this one is the stallion, which is the male adult, while these are mare, which are adult female, and foal, which means children of horses, young, not matured horses. So these horses are miniature horses. And these are miniature donkeys. I've never heard of miniature donkeys until last month when we went to Skagit Valley to see the snow geese. And there they are in this JF Miniature Donkey Farm in Skagit Valley, right on Best Road. So if you go there next time, make sure to pay attention when you pass by this farm. I mentioned this word because last time we talked about miniature paintings. And I thought this is the second thing I want to correct, that miniature painting is about paintings that are small, but actually they're not. This is because of this word, which is called the minium, which means a red kind of lead, made of lead. The pigment 是色素, huh? So you use a kind of lead that is red in color. There are different kind of lead alloys, 就是合金, huh? Let me see, we have alloy, maybe 2L. Okay, so you have lead, which comes in many forms in nature. Some are very, very white. So it was heavily used to make cosmetics, and it's poisonous. That's why a lot of people, especially they say Roman Empire collapsed because people use white lead cosmetics to make up. That's why people died left and right because of that. So right now, all the cosmetics, 化妆品, huh? So they are red lead and white lead. And this red lead is called the minium. And you use this red to do small paintings, and that's called the miniature. Huh? It was called the miniare. And after a long time, the word became corrupted, and the people started to call this kind of painting miniature painting because they are small. So they were just like me, thinking miniature painting is a small painting, but originally it's called the miniature because it was made with red lead, which is called the minium. You don't have to know that, but I have to tell you when I make a mistake. Many people, according to Wikipedia, they thought it's tiny little pictures, but they are not tiny little pictures. They just happen to be tiny little, but they were called miniature because they were done with red color lead. In addition to Western and the Byzantine tradition, this is one of those, a miniature painting that was done in Western Europe or Byzantine. Byzantine is the Eastern Roman Empire. So these are miniature paintings. But in addition to Western and the Byzantine tradition, we have a whole lot of different miniature paintings. They were from Persia. They went to India and the Ottoman, and there found in Azerbaijan and Uzbekistan. So all these Central Asian countries, they had this culture, this tradition of making miniature paintings. And in the year 2020, they got listed by UNESCO as a intangible, here's the word, intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Okay, so in addition to this Western and the Byzantine miniature paintings, you have the Eastern kind, which is like this one, a picture I took in Uzbekistan, or the one that I showed you last time, which is a miniature painting found in Azerbaijan. By the way, I'm going to continue talking about Azerbaijan this Saturday at 10 o'clock. So these are Eastern Central Asian miniature paintings, okay? The next word is blue cheese. We all had blue cheese, and I love blue cheese. And it was made of penicillium. Do you know that? Penicillin, which was later made into this antibiotic, life-saving antibiotic injections or pills that people take. They say during World War I, thousands upon thousands of people, injured veterans, soldiers, were saved by the invention of penicillin, and it was used to make blue cheese. That's why I've heard that in CDC, which is all the rage right now, people know what CDC is now because of the pandemic, because it's a center for contagious disease control. Yeah, it was called CDC for many years. Then they added control to it because it's not just about the disease, it's all about the prevention as well. So it's called the CDC-D now. And I heard once when it was CDC that anyone who worked there, if you go on a trip to another country, you are not required, but the office would wish you would bring back a sack of soil from that country, because a soil sample contains modes and different kinds of cultures in it that are different from place to place. So if you go to a different country, they would like to get a sample of those germs or tiny creatures so that they can make discoveries like penicillin. That is so important to our fight against pandemic diseases, okay? That's very interesting. So about blue cheese, you're supposed to grow it in the cheese by ingesting it with penicillin and to keep in the temperature controlled environment, such as in a cave. And you can eat the cheese itself as a spread, or you can make a cheese sandwich, or you can put in the salad. And it's got a pungent, creamy texture. Pungent 是说它的味道很呛鼻子，很冲的哈。And this is a blue cheese, and we all thought, oh, there's blue cheese. Okay, we thought there was one blue cheese, but there are hundreds of blue cheeses out there. And this one is a French blue cheese, Bleu de Gex. And this is another French blue cheese, du Roquefort. And this is an Italian blue cheese, Gorgonzola. And this is a German blue cheese, Gambozola. And this is a Finnish blue cheese, Aurora. Once I was on a river cruise in Seine, that's in France. Every night after dinner, they would give you 3 samples of cheese. One is a soft cheese, one is a hard cheese, and one is a blue cheese. So every day you will have different cheeses that all taste different. This is the last one, big one I have today, which is the word cult. And when I talk about cult, last time we talked about David Lynch, who made the movies like Blue Velvet and the TV series like Twin Peaks that became so popular. They attracted hundreds or millions of fans. They were just fanatic about it. They loved it so much. For example, Japanese Twin Peaks fans would come to our North Bend to go on a tour of Twin Peaks tour. However, it was not mostly filmed in North Bend. It was filmed in Hollywood and other places, but the outdoor scenes were filmed here. Okay, so this is the time that I mentioned a movie or a film that is a cult film. A cult film would mean that a movie or something else, a TV movie or something, that is very, very weird but popular. It was not popular when it first appeared. However, some people just liked it so much, it became more and more popular. They buy or they take tours or they just 炒作. They made it so very famous that it becomes more and more famous years later. So it's a weird thing. It's called a cult film. And these things usually are not very popular to normal people. People must have some kind of weird appreciation in order to like it. That's why it was not so popular in the beginning. And the people were just excessive. They have a sense of excessive devotion to it. They loved it so much that they could do weird things about it. So it becomes a cult. However, as it gets more and more common for films to get that status, the definition of cult film also extended to include some really commonly popular films, but that attract loyal following. For example, Star Wars or Back to Future. These are really popular movies, but there are people so fanatically obsessive about them that they are sometimes called cult films. But originally, the word cult is about a religion. Many religions having different shoots or denominations. 就是它有一个主流哈 but they have a denominations. So you have this Christianity, then you have Catholics and Eastern Orthodox, you have Protestants, and then you have Mormon, and you have a Shaker, and you have they're not so, they don't come so easily to my mind. There's Amish, and there's the Mennonites, and the Millerites, and so on and so forth. So these are all part of the mainstream religion, but they started to attract different kind of people, and to other people who are mainstream, they think these are cult religion. So they would be confronted with the objections and the hostility. Other people would think this is a weird cult. And sometimes they're really weird. Yeah, there are several of them there that are truly weird. I'm showing 3 that are in the United States that became tragically weird. One is Jonestown in Guyana, one is Branch Davidian in Waco, Texas, and one is Heaven's Gate in San Diego. These happened chronologically in my lifetime. Jonestown was founded by Jim Jones. He was the leader of People's Temple in San Francisco, and the people in the neighborhood did not want them to be there. So eventually he took hundreds of them to Guyana, which is on the northern tip of South America. And he built a village there, and he had lots of people. When they all died on the same day, 900 people died. Okay, so some of the people have relatives and loved ones who did not like how they became. They think this is a cult that their loved ones should not belong to. So they went to their congressman and asked him for help. They say, you should investigate this Jim Jones, because he is tricking all these people to follow him and doing such weird things. So one of these days, this congressman, along with 5 other, well, including him, I guess, there were 5 people, they went to Guyana to investigate. And Jim Jones panicked. He thought the outside world is against us. They are here to kill all of us. And we, since we love each other and we knew we are the best, we should kill them. We should rise up against them. So he killed all 5 of those investigators, and he made them all die on the same day. He suggested that they should all commit suicide. And of course, many of them did not want to, and they were killed because they did not want to. But a whole lot of them, either voluntarily or not voluntarily, drank the soft drink made of, not high C, what's that called? Kool-Aid, okay. Kool-Aid laced with the cyanide, and they all died. All of them died. And of course, some of them died later than others because they want to make sure they're all dead. So they use weapons to force others to die or to drink, or they killed them. So this is a story about Jim Jones. The congressman was Leo Ryan, and he died there. But he died before all the others. That was described by the media as a mass suicide. However, after several decades, we come to the conclusion that it's not a suicide. It's called a massacre or a mass murder. Okay, so this is what it looks like after it's all said and done. And the second one is Branch Davidian in 1993. It was a branch of the Christian church that was an offshoot called the Seventh-day Adventist, and this branch still exists. 可能叫做安息日会吧. And then a offshoot, another split out from Seventh-day Adventist, was Branch Davidian. It was established in 1955 in Texas, Waco, Texas, and they built Mount Carmel Center as their religious center. And in 1984, along came a man called David Koresh. That was not his real name. He called him David Koresh, and he took over the administration and the leadership of this place. And he amassed lots of weapons, guns and other bombs and so on, and attracted attention of FBI and the ATF. ATF represents the Bureau of Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. So they came down on Mount Carmel. Carmel is a place in Israel. Yeah, I've been to Mount Carmel before, but this Mount Carmel is a branch of Seventh-day Adventist located in Waco, Texas. And the ATF initiated a standoff, just waged entirely surrounded by ATM agents, and they want them to surrender their weapons, and they did not. And finally, there was some kind of fire. Then some of them died, and this went on for a total of 51 days. And in the end, the people inside set fire to it, and everybody was killed. And they had a similar mentality as those people in Jonestown, because they were in this cult and they were mesmerized by this leader, and they believed that the outside world was descending on them to kill them all, so they'd rather be dead. That's what a cult religion can do to people, and this is a fire that was determined to be set by people inside this cult. The third one is called Heaven's Gate. It's in San Diego in 1997. It was a so-called here UFO religious cult. They believe in UFO. The leader was called Marshall Applewhite, and he had a huge mansion north of San Diego with a group of people. Eventually, there were 39 dead bodies in there. So he had a cult there. They were far away from everybody, and they do their things their own way, and the people did not interfere. I mean, the neighborhood did not interfere with them because it was quite small. However, one day the police department was alerted to visit this place, and they found 39 bodies in there. And it is because they believe that the comet, called the Comet Hale-Bopp, was approaching the Earth. Once every several hundred years, this thing happened. And they believe that if they could die before the comet arrives, they could fly to the comet and be carried away by this comet to some fantasy land. So that's why they all killed themselves. This is the leader, Marshall Applewhite, and I watched several of these things. And when the police was there, all the bodies were neatly arranged on the beds, covered from head to below the waist, wearing brand new shoes, and they were all dead. And the picture on the lower right was the building. There were, ambulances going there or funeral home vehicles to carry away those dead bodies. So that's the original meaning of cult. That is some kind of weird religious branch spin-off that does weird things, and they seem to have this hold on people, so that people were so dedicated to do whatever the leader ordered them to do. So on the other hand, it has many other meanings, especially as time goes by. It was used to apply to other things. One is cult films. So cult film usually means this, the fan base is very passionate. And in the beginning, it was a box office bomb, which means it did not sell well at all. When the movie is a box office sleeper hit, that was a hit that was unexpected. And if it's a very, very popular, then there's a different category. But when you say it's a bomb, that means it's not popular at all. As a result, normal people would think this film is very bad. Yeah, people should think that it's very bad, probably because it's just a terrible movie. Sometimes they say a movie is so bad that it's good because it's so terrible, it's so laughably terrible that you would laugh at it and you would find it very entertaining because it was so bad. Okay. Oh, I went the wrong way. Okay. So this kind of movie sometimes are taboo or too violent or too gory or too much sexuality and things like that. So it's not for the general public. So it's controversial, but some people would love it so much that it became a cult film. And if you go to Wikipedia to find cultish films, you can find hundreds or thousands of them. And I just started from number to A to B to C, and I stopped. It's just, there are so many of them. And there are directors here. I listed 3 directors who makes cult films, like David Lynch. I did not add him. Ed Wood was a bad movie maker in the 30s, and Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, they are both do movie directors that makes very violent movies. That's why some people would like them very, very much. Okay. Okay. Then we talk about another word for cult, which is a personality. This, I've seen so many of them, like Mao Zedong or Stalin or Chiang Kai-shek, for that matter, on a lesser grand scale. And many, many minor countries I visited, for example, Tajikistan or Turkmenistan or Azerbaijan, or right now in Turkey, or in Egypt right now, the leader became so oppressive and he created such a cultish following, and his government is so oppressive and controlling that most of people had no choice but to adore this leader. They would fantasize that he's so great. And when he died, everybody would cry. They really, really cry because they really loved this fanatic cult leader, like in North Korea. I personally, I really hate to see leaders like that. They themselves know they were not like God, but they insist on others to adore them as God. This is the liar of the greatest degree. And even Trump was trying to do that, but this country was a little better than some, not by much though, huh? So
Trump.
I have to talk about Trump all the time. Life is so peaceful without Trump. I really miss those days. Every day you have some joke to laugh about. Okay, this is Khrushchev talking about Stalin. Stalin was one of those cult figures in Russia that everyone must adore him to the utmost degree. And when he died, if you have seen the movie Death of Stalin, it is, that's a movie which really takes it to a higher measure, that when it's bad, it is good, because it's so funny when Stalin died, because nobody knows what to do, because they were all trained to adore him and always obey him. However, Khrushchev is one of the leaders who decided that it is now time to puncture the lies of Stalin. So when Stalin died, there was, of course, a power struggle, and Khrushchev emerged as a leader. And the first thing he wanted to do is to say that Stalin was bad. Yeah, despite what everybody thinks, he was bad. Okay. He punctured the myth of Stalin. And this was one of the propagandic poster made during the Stalinistic times. Okay. And I'm just making one example. This is Turkmenistan. On the left is one of many golden statues of this president. And he was everywhere. And on the right, it was a golden baby held by a mother in their huge memorial complex. And that baby was supposed to represent him. He was 8 years old when the earthquake shook Turkmenistan. So they made this memorial to commemorate the earthquake, the death of the earthquake, tens upon thousands or more, or even more. They did not tell anyone. It was kept under wrap when it happened. But now we knew that hundreds of thousands of people died. And they made him into this golden baby in this memorial. It's just disgusting when you talk about these people. Yeah, when I was in Taiwan, I was one of the people who went to the streets and waved flags, or went to the square to say, long live the president, for 100,000 years, whatever. I felt nothing wrong at all. That's why I would turn around in such a radical way, because I was fooled. Though I was lucky that I did not feel that way at the time. Then I could probably be shot for that. Okay, so elope is the word that means 私奔. So a boy and a girl decided to run away to get married instead of telling their parents, because they anticipate hostility. The parents were not happy, were not going to be happy, or already told them they could not get married. Now that's what the word elope. And fraternal twins is also called non-identical twins. That is the fertilized egg. There were two of them growing at the same time inside the mother, but they were brothers and sisters, or two sisters, two brothers, or one brother, one sister, or whatever, but they were just siblings. They were not split from the same egg. Usually when you see identical twins, they were split from the one egg, so they were identical in their chromosomes. So they were totally genetically the same. However, there are such twins, they are not identical. Okay. And gender is the last word. We used to think when you fill out a form, there would be one box that says gender or sex, which would mean the same thing. There was a slight difference between the two words, but when they appear on the form, it's the same thing. You would say man or woman, or male or female. However, it's got a host of other meanings in the last several decades. That's because of this LGBTQ thing. Here I have in the fourth bullet, LGBTQ. Now we have lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. And there is a plus sign after this thing. There are a lot more that are not represented by this. So the gender of a person can be different from their biological sex. And there are all kinds of degrees. You can be right in the middle, you can be this side to that side, or you can in different shades of the transgender spectrum. This is just too complicated for me to go over. We're going to talk about this song, which is Minstrel Boy. And I really cannot find one with lyrics that are this decent. So I found this one, which is the three Irish tenors, which is a better one. But this one is with lyrics. And when I show you this lyrics, I would be showing you the second one. It was not very good, okay? But I like to okay. This sounds so happy and chirpy. I don't think it's a good rendition of the song because it's solemn and it deeply affects those people who are Irish because their tradition and their suffering under the British people. So it should be a very solemn song. You should listen to the three Irish tenors version of it. Because it was written by a very respected scholar, so there are a few words that are more difficult and less commonly used. And it's also older, so these words are not so common now. There's gird and harp and bard and the minstrel and asunder and the sully. So I'm going to explain these words. The gird is a 腰带, huh? So he put this around his waist. So this the thing, the belt is around the gird. So around the waist, okay? And it's usually a flexible rope. So it's a belt, 不是一个belt, 而是一个 rope, okay? And it also means to surround your waist with something. And it also means to prepare for something. If you are girded for something, that means you are ready to take this on. So this gird can also be a noun. And the next word is harp. It's a symbol of Ireland. And if you go to Ireland, you would want to drink a Guinness beer. It's their number one popular beer with that harp as a logo or symbol of this beer, okay? This harp is traditionally an Irish instrument, and it represents them, and it's in the museum, the very old harps. And when they became a republic in 1922, the government contacted the Guinness beer and asked them that we wanted to use that harp as to represent our country. And the Guinness beer turned them down. They said, no, it is ours. You cannot use it. And so the government decided we're going to use it anyway. So they turned it left and right and use it anyway. So you can see that this is the harp that was used by Guinness beer. And this is the harp used by the Republic. Okay. And they have 3 harps. You can see this one. I took the picture in Trinity College. In Trinity College, they have a very beautiful library with authentic old ancient books, and they have a great display of the books of what is it called? Book of, it's not Tell. Is it Tell? Well, you can Google it. Nobody's checking your Google. Book of Nell. Book of Life, Book of Mormon, Book of, I don't know. Okay, Kells. Book of Kells. Kells. The Book of Kells was a Bible, fancy Bible written and illustrated beautifully with gold and silver and so on. Yeah, go home and Google for Book of Kells, Kells, and they have this huge display of Book of Kells. They're over 100 years old, very, very valuable, and there's a huge line every day around the block. There's huge line trying to get in there. So this library, you can go see the library after you see the Book of Kells. And this library has a harp that looks like this, which is a picture I personally took. Okay. A bard is a word for entertainer. Mostly it was a singer of songs and the storytellers. In our country, it would be 说书或者说评书或者是 we have lots of bards that tell you stories, sometimes just by narration, sometimes by singing, or sometimes you have operas, Chinese regional operas that were staged, but if it's one person, that person is called a bard. And in the Celtic culture, Celtic covers a vast land in Western Europe, as far east as in Russia and Germany and Scotland, Ireland, and the south as France. All these areas was once under Celtic people. And they have this tradition of one single storytellers singing songs, and it's called a bard. And sometimes it's called a troubadour or trovatore, that's Italian. And in England, it's when people say the bard, they mean Shakespeare. It's almost exclusively used to describe Shakespeare. So when they say the bard, you know it is Shakespeare. Although sometimes in a looser way, people can say, oh, he is a respected bard or something. But when they say the bard, it is Shakespeare. And if you're in India, you would call Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, 就是泰戈尔. He was called the bard of Bengal, 就是孟加拉的游唱诗人哈。He was the winner of a Nobel Prize in literature. A minstrel is another word for a bard, but later on it carries different meanings. It could be a group of people. It's almost like a small circus. There are people uh, magicians and the jugglers and acrobats and the singers or clowns. They would be a small group of people traveling from town to town, and over time, minstrel groups would become bigger and bigger and become a circus. But circus, of course, needs more money to invest in all those animals. So minstrel is a much reduced version of circus. And in America, there was a time when they have clowns made of people, white people painted in black to poke joke at black people because they think black people are not educated and foolish and so on and so forth. And that kind of show, which is called the minstrel show, is now condemned all around. And if you go to college and went to a party painting yourself black, then you'll have to apologize years later when you are Justin Trudeau or someone else. Yeah, it's not a good thing to do, but at that time it was very popular, and they never thought it was wrong. And the foe is 敌人, so foeman means the enemy, but it's rarely used. Asunder means to pull it apart or to pull into pieces. And the time that you hear this word most often is at a wedding, because according to Mark, 马可福音, chapter 10, line 9, King James Bible says, "What therefore God hath joined together, let no man put asunder." Nowadays, when it's a Christian marriage, wedding, you always see this, I say preacher or the leader of this, it's called what's it called? Hey, Eileen, what is it called? The person who presides over a wedding.
Minister.
Minister, but there's another word. Officiate. Okay, I was looking for the word officiate. Okay,
Yeah.
so this person is the official. He doesn't or she doesn't have to be a minister. Nowadays, you can register online to become some kind of person that you can conduct a wedding. Like a co-worker of mine, she conducted many weddings by doing that because she enjoys doing that. She's not a religious leader. So they would always say, "Now I pronounce you man and wife." So 你们两个就结婚了. And before that, and after that, they would say, "What God put together, let no man put asunder." 没有人可以把他们两个拉开，撕裂这个婚姻. Okay, that's the word. You hear the word asunder all the time. And sully is to make dirty or to stain or to soil or to corrupt or to damage. Okay, the last one is 南宋岳飞, and we all studied 满江红 in high school, and you could feel the strength, the emotion he was feeling when he wrote this, because he was leading many soldiers into war, and he is so dedicated to the country and wanted the job to be done. Not only he was so emotional because of these feelings, he was also feeling, on the other hand, that other people are trying to pull his legs. They want to stop him from doing what he decided to do, but these other people, like the emperor and the prime minister and other people, they were all trying to stop him from doing that. They just want peace. They want to let the enemy to take away the territory, and they want to send tributes to this barbarian state, but UFA did not want that to happen, and he was furious when he wrote this. Okay, he was marshaling armies and doing great. He recovered many territories that were occupied by the enemy. However, the emperor, on the advice of the prime minister, sent him 12 golden edicts on the board that says, come home, stop doing what you're doing, return immediately. And he was arrested on the order of the prime minister and ordered to commit suicide. And at that time, his son and other officials or other generals under him were already dead because they were ordered to kill themselves. However, after he died, of course, after a few years, the new emperor ascended the throne and decided to exonerate him. 就是要平反他 exonerate. And he was a good general, a good soldier. His soldiers were well disciplined. They do not loot the common people's houses or crops, and his enemies respect him because he is so powerful. They say it's easier to move the mountain than to move his armies. And he was the only general who was successful on the grand scale to conquer or restore land territories from the enemy, while others just want to just wait around for the enemy to conquer themselves. Okay, I have seen some writings recently about how wrong he was. And of course, we were trained in the way that we thought it is totally wrong to doubt that Yue was not a good person. But this kind of new talk was about when the country was so weak that they could not win the war. Only he would insist on sacrificing soldiers and making the enemy angry and so on. So he was not doing the right thing for the country. Of course, whenever there is a war, there are two sides. And in one country, there must be two sides of people. One is for the war and one is against the war. So you can expect that some people would be against him. And after him, every government wanted people to feel that Yue is a good guy. So they constantly promoted the idea that Yue was such a good guy and so patriotic and so loved the country that he would sacrifice his life and many other lives, I suppose. But when you're looking at history from a very, very far distance, it's unavoidable that some other people would think differently. And you have no way of finding out who's right or who's wrong, I suppose. Okay, what do you think?
Thank you.
Okay, I will stop share then. Okay.
Next time, can you talk about this oracle, the 甲骨文?
Oh, okay. 甲骨文 has very little to do with the Greek mythology, but we can talk about 甲骨文. Yes.
It's a prediction.
Yeah, because they burn the jagu, which is either the turtle shell or what's the other one? But maybe the shoulder blade of a bird or something,
Cow.
yeah, or animal, cows or other, yeah. So some parts of the animal, after the animal died, they use that to burn on the fire. And we'll talk about it next time, okay? But it'll be the first week of April. It's the 7th of April, I believe. Okay, so because
So,
it's
so are we going
portion-
to have class on the 2nd and the 4th week?
No, first and third.
Oh, we're going to have first and third.
First and third, yes.
Oh, okay.